Mkhwanazi. So the point I'm making, Commissioners, is that some sort of credence has to be given to this. Because here you have a situation where on the 6th of July last year, General Mkhwanazi calls a media briefing, a very dramatic, fantastic media briefing, where he talks about interference in investigations. In fact, according to this statement, that's exactly what he was doing in the Pashlani investigation. He was interfering with IPID and trying to get IPID members to leave IPID and give them some dirt on Robert McBride and allegedly against me as well.
Mr. O'Sullivan, where do we see in this affidavit that the overture or the approach by General Mkhwanazi related to the Pashlani case? Where do we see that in this affidavit?
So you cannot see that in that statement. You would have to be involved on the ground at the time, as I was, to know what was going on. And all of this was going on at the same time as the Pashlani investigation. And in my opinion, my humble opinion, the only way you're going to get to the bottom of this is either to get a detailed sworn statement from Mr. Kuba or get him to come and testify. I cannot believe it can take long for him to cover these aspects.
It may be so. It may be so that it won't take long, but one note, I'm noting, for example, that Mr. Kuba did this two-page affidavit, the first 2 pages.
Yep.
On the 16th of January 2026, the commission was sitting. I don't know for what purpose he prepared this
My
affidavit.
understanding, Commissioner, is that it was for the ad hoc committee of Parliament.
Yes. The point I'm making is that as recent as January 2026, where he prepares an affidavit, he doesn't say anything about General Mkhwanazi approaching him to interfere as a measure to interfere in the Pashlani investigation. In fact, at paragraph 18, he says, our sense was that he was trying to fish to get me to tell him what I knew. He doesn't say about what, but he has opportunity in January to say more on these earlier affidavits, and in particular, that he felt, even if it's just I felt, he was speaking to me, or he wanted me to interfere, or he was interfering in the Pashlani investigation. He doesn't say that. So my question really is, if we rely on these 2 affidavits, well, including the recent one, so all 3, 2 drafts, and this latest affidavit, there isn't anything in it that speaks to the very specific topic you're speaking to, which you say this is evidence of interference.
So,
and unless I misunderstand your evidence, I thought what you're saying is this is evidence of interference.
These documents themselves would not amount to evidence on their own of the interference. They would have to be read together with the High Court cases that took place at the time, where IPID launched urgent application to stop police interference in their investigation into Pashlani. And they were successful in that they got an order that the police must not do a counter-investigation. Now, I was on the ground at this moment in time, so I knew what was going on. So I knew that this related to Mandla Mashlangu, by the way, Cedric and Kabindi. If you look at this, Commissioner, you will see that he does mention that Mkhwanazi was fishing to see what he could find out about Robert McBride and Paul O'Sullivan. And my only involvement with Robert McBride at that moment in time was the Pashlani investigation. I had no other involvement. That was it, short and sweet. So it's hard to draw that conclusion, I agree with you, but I do believe it's warranted, if possible, to either get the gentleman in or have one of the investigators take a more detailed sworn statement from him.
Isn't the problem with that proposal that I can, maybe let me start. I can understand when you say you were on the ground, and because you were on the ground, you are able to draw connections between this approach to IPID and what you knew was happening on the ground, including that the General Patlane matter was taking life. So I can see, I'm prepared to accommodate that in your connection of the dots. That's the picture it creates. The difficulty, at least for me, is we have a statement here where, we have that unsigned affidavit where Mr. Kuba makes no reference to the Patlane matter. And that is compounded by that as recently as January 2026.
Yep.
He gets to prepare another affidavit that attaches the unsigned one, and he doesn't speak to...
No, exactly.
He doesn't make that allegation.
No, I fully agree with you. If I was involved in the preparation of this statement in January 2026, I would have crossed the T's and dotted the I's and made it crystal clear what it was involved in.
Yeah.
We know for a fact that Cedric Nkabindi left IPID, tried to join the police as a brigadier, and I wrote to General Sitoli at the time, and I said I would bring a court application if he's appointed in the police. So we know that was the status with Cedric Nkabindi. At the end of the day, this is crying out for further, shall we say, investigation. I understand that on its own, it's not a smoking gun, but I do believe there is a smoking gun to be had here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. You speak of unlawful prosecutable conduct of General Mkhwanazi pertaining to General Patlane relating to offences, I believe, were committed in 2017 and 2018 when General Mkhwanazi was involved in unlawful attempts to prevent investigations and prosecution of General Patlane. And then you quote this affidavit. Similarly, this affidavit doesn't help us understand the unlawful prosecutable conduct you reference, unless you suggest that General Mkhwanazi inquiring from Mr. Kuba whether he has information that could implicate McBride in criminal wrongdoing involving Mr. Paul O'Sullivan is the unlawful prosecutable conduct. Is that?
No, so that's why I've suggested, Commissioner, in my paragraph 1.5.9,
Yes.
I said I will not therefore canvass the matter. Safe to say that I feel very strongly that the evidence of Mr. Humbulani Kuba in this regard should be tested. In other words, it needs to be tested, because that's the only way you're really going to get to the bottom of the matter. I know what it is, but my knowledge is not evidence. It's just what I know, and I accept that it's not evidence.
I understand what you say. So you are inviting the Commission to test and, to the extent necessary, perhaps engage with Mr. Kuba so that we can determine the unlawful prosecutable conduct of General Mkhwanazi and his involvement in unlawful attempts to prevent investigations and prosecution of General Patlane.
That's correct.
Okay, I fully understand. That then brings us to the end of that particular subtopic. And if...
Sorry, you have said you know this or you know about this, but your knowledge all on its own or by itself will not assist. What exactly do you mean when you say you know?
Because, Commissioner, at the time, way back then, when all this was going on, the multiple attempts at trying to derail the investigation by IPID against Patlane was going into the public domain and making these comments that Paul O'Sullivan was taking over IPID, which of course were false comments, absolutely false. Now you have this situation going on, and you have this parallel conduct in relation to Cedric and Kabindi. Let's just park Cedric and Kabindi to one side. Because at the time this took place, Cedric and Kabindi, he went across to the other side. He left IPED and he went into the Pashlani camp. And he was recruited into the Pashlani camp by General Mkhwanazi. And he provided a sworn statement in a High Court case where General Pashlani launched an application to try and have the charges against him thrown out of court. And he failed. The court ruled against him. Now, that was Cedric and Kabindi that was making that sworn statement for General Pashlani. But he didn't say, by the way, I was recruited by General Mkhwanazi. But if you read this, Humbalani Kuba says that General Mkhwanazi tells him, listen, we've already got Cedric and Kabindi on board, and we've already got Madlanga Commission on board, but he said one of them hasn't signed. Well, at the time, we found out that it was Madlanga Commission who hadn't signed, and he refused to sign. Unfortunately, he was murdered because of it.
Do you have any idea, Mr. O'Sullivan, for what purpose this statement was made for the ad hoc committee? The short affidavit to which are attached the draft statements.
Yes, Commissioner, because I obtained this affidavit from Robert McBride. Because when this ad hoc committee was going on, you had certain parties going to the ad hoc committee and, for want of a better expression, blowing smoke up their backsides with all these false claims. And you had this situation where they called as witnesses people like Robert McBride, and they tried to impugn his character. And they did the same to me. They tried to impugn my character. But unbeknown to me, and I only found out afterwards, Robert McBride obtained this statement and tried to persuade the ad hoc committee to call Mr. Kuba as a witness, but they didn't. So that's my understanding as to how the statement was obtained.
Also, it was filed with the ad hoc committee at the instance of Mr. McBride.
That's my understanding.
Okay. Okay. But was the context there to say that General Mkhwanazi had allegedly committed unlawful prosecutable conduct? Was that the purpose for filing this statement, or was the purpose something else? Do you know?
My understanding, Commissioner, is that the ad hoc committee didn't obtain the statement. My understanding is that Robert McBride obtained the statement, and that when he obtained it, with all due respect, he didn't spend long enough cobbling it together. It could have contained a lot more detail. And this was a quick rush job that was done before his appearance at the ad hoc committee. If I was involved in doing it, it would have contained all the relevant data, but I wasn't involved, and I only found out about it later.
But what I'm saying is, I did not suggest that it was filed at the instance of the ad hoc committee, no. I'm saying, was it filed for the purpose of showing that General Mkhwanazi was allegedly guilty of unlawful prosecutable conduct?
That is correct.
Even if it was at the instance of Mr. McBride. Was that the purpose?
My understanding, Commissioner, and I don't have the minutes of when Mr. McBride testified at the ad hoc commission, but his actual words were, this is evidence of unlawful prosecutable conduct on the part of General Mkhwanazi. And perhaps one of the researchers can find the PMG minutes of the meeting where he states that, because that, in fact, is what he stated. When I heard it I didn't listen to him giving his evidence. I heard it later and somebody pointed it out to me, and I said, can I get a copy of that statement? And that's what I got. That's what I said.
And would this have been prosecutable conduct relating to General Pahlane or yes?
That's what Robert McBride insinuated.
Wanted to, okay. All right, which I think, or rather in respect of which the statement does not seem to assist.
No.
And that's the point Commissioner Baloyi already took you through.
I agree with the
Yes,
Commissioner.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As I indicated, Mr. O'Sullivan, we're now at your page 17, and we start with the next subtopic, 1.6. General Mkhwanazi, Mr. Kistia,